Can we just admit that this is probably one of the best volumes of RWBY since probably Volume 3? This is a really good episode, and these past few episodes, or actually since the very beginning of Volume 6, has been outright amazing. And I just think Rooster Teeth definitely deserves a lot of credit for just taking the time to really have a good story for this season, and having a lot of character development, focusing on some character flaws that needed to be addressed for a very long time. I think Rooster Teeth really is just going all out for this season, and I just really want to appreciate that fact. But okay, with all that out of the way, I want to talk about one very important piece of information from this episode, and that is Jaune confronting the Pyrrha statue. There is many ways you can interpret from that scene. Like, you can have many theories about it, and you have one theory to where the woman that Jaune saw was a spirit/ghost, or it was actually, Pyrrha's family member of some sort, either sister or mother, but just oddly disappeared for an exaggerated effect. But regardless, there's two ways to view that scene. And, I am inclined to believe it's not a spirit, but at the same time, we do know that when it comes to the legend behind Jaune's character, for instance, in actual history, Jaune of the Arc, you have it to where the person in real history, apparently, or in stories, heard voices. And I wonder if what Jaune saw in that moment, when he was talking to the woman with red hair, if that was some form of spirit/ghost, or a hallucination in his head. Now, I know many are going to point out, but Chibi, there was flowers in the scene. Well, there's a couple of explanations for this. Either A, Rooster Teeth, they forgot to remove the flowers, and, maybe it was just a technical issue, which I doubt, honestly. Or B, Jaune was the one to put them there, if he is hallucinating. He was just hallucinating everything, and he put flowers down there, but he thought someone else did it, and he was just looking at, either a ghost of Pyrrha, or her family member of some kind, or just having a straight-up hallucination. I have no idea. But I feel like there is a lot going on with that scene than we really realize, and I feel like it's going to be, very important for the future episodes, or especially when it comes to Jaune's storyline for the story of RWBY, because, let's think about this very closely, okay? Jaune as a character, for a very long time, he's been facing a lot of hardships ever since what happened to Pyrrha. He's been trying to overcome her death, and it's something that he might not ever be able to overcome. It's not something it's gone. It's over. You've moved on. It doesn't normally happen. And especially if you're so emotionally attached to that person, connected, you're not going to be able to just throw those emotions away. Jaune is very connected to Pyrrha, and with her death, we've seen him struggle, do training every single night, watching videos and stuff. RWBY saw a couple volumes back. We know that Jaune has been on the struggle bus. He has been through a lot, and honestly, he really hasn't been a good leader for his team, for Ren and Nora, just because of how he is. He just has been so, lifeless or emotional and not really knowing what to do, which I can't blame the man. Yes, he needs to pick himself back up and not wallow in his own misery, but at the same time, I can't blame the man for being so sad after what happened to Pyrrha. But Pyrrha would not want to see that, if we want to get technical here. But okay. The point is, though, is that Jaune is a character that was the main spotlight for this episode. And honestly, I'm a little bit surprised. I figured, Oscar would have been one of the main focuses after what happened in the last episode and how he went up missing and how this episode started off with him searching for Oscar. I was under the impression that this episode would probably focus entirely on trying to find Oscar, figure out what's going on with him, if Ozpin's going to come back, see if something like that's going to happen, but that didn't happen. And we see Oscar manages to make it back in, the house, and apparently he was making dinner for everyone. He had a new, clothes on, just everything like that, and it seems like he came to a realization that, he wants to enjoy the time he has left before he completely disappears. But I was, like I said, under the impression it would be focused on Oscar, but like I said, it was focused on Jaune. Now, Jaune, I love his character. He's needed a spotlight for a while. We needed an episode like this, and we knew it was coming for a while now, ever since they came to Mistral. We knew that Jaune was going to somehow meet either one of Pyrrha's family members, or he was going to see her grave or some kind. We knew something like that was going to happen, because ever since the very beginning with Pyrrha's introduction, where she came from and all that, and his connection, it was bound to happen. So, it finally did. And unexpected feels. I did not expect to get as emotional as I did seeing him walk up to the statue, look at her all sad, and I'm just like, yo. And it really kind of speaks to you when you think about why Jaune is so upset right now, why he's so upset with Oscar and Ozpin, and why he doesn't really like how there is no end in sight, is because Pyrrha, she gave up her life. She literally gave up her life to be able to try to put an end to Grimm and all that Salem, but when she actually did that, became like the Maiden, she was completely unaware that there would never be an end. And so she sacrificed herself in a lot of ways for nothing. That's how Jaune kind of views it, that she died for nothing. I mean, now after finding out everything, literally her death literally amounts to nothing because she didn't change anything. She couldn't have changed anything. So, potentially sacrificing her own personality to dying and all that, it's sad. And I feel for Jaune. I really do. And I feel like that's one of the big things he has to come to terms with. He has to find a reason to, Pyrrha's sacrifice. Does it have meaning? Is there a reason for her death? So let's get into Emerald and Mercury for a second. They had a very big segment at the beginning of the episode that kind of exposed Emerald for who she really is. And he kind of just straight up told her like it was, and she needs to be able to accept reality for what it is. Mercury's like, you need to realize that Cinder doesn't care about you, Emerald. She doesn't care. She thinks of you like a pawn. She has no love for you. She doesn't look at you like she's your mother and you're her daughter. She doesn't care. And this is something that's been a part of Emerald's character for a very long time. Emerald, as a character, has had this attachment to Cinder, which is understandable. I mean, she thinks of Cinder like her mother in a way. And, she's always looked up to Cinder. But the thing is Emerald had this love for Cinder, but Cinder never had it back. And Mercury was just trying to, in some ways, be a good person to Emerald. And it's like, look, wake up. Cinder doesn't care about you. You are someone that she literally doesn't think about, just willing to throw you away if she has to. She's just worried about her own goals and ideals. And I just like that little segment of how Mercury just told Emerald, like what, she needed that. She needed to wake up. She needed to actually face the music and understand what has been happening since the very beginning. But let's talk about Mercury for a second. Mercury talks about his backstory a little bit, and apparently his father stole his semblance. Now, that is interesting. That is a very interesting little part to this episode, because we saw some of his techniques, Mercury's techniques. I'm assuming it has something to do with his, his leg, but even then, though, I'm just like, whoa, so we've never really gotten to see Mercury's semblance and all that, and it was stolen by his father. So, I wonder if this might play another part in the future, like, semblance stealing or something like it. This is the last time we'll see something like this, or will semblances continuously be stolen in the future? Who really knows? But Mercury's semblance is stolen, which is hinting at maybe one day Mercury might get his semblance back, and if he does, he'll be even stronger than he is right now, which would be pretty freaking cool, because it would be a nice little power-up to one of the main baddies on Cinder or Salem's side to help her out. Now, speaking of which, Tyrian was also a spotlight in this episode for the Mercury and Emerald scene. And Tyrian, in his own way, he uses reverse psychology to manipulate Mercury and Emerald. He's like, oh, no, I don't want you to leave and all that, but he's like, I want you to do what makes you happy, gives you purpose or whatever. That's kind of what he was saying in his own way. He was being like a nice guy, when in reality, he was using reverse psychology to make it seem like they had a choice. But in reality, they didn't, and he was just trying to give them motivation to be able to stick around or be a part of Salem's crew, which I find very interesting about Tyrian. I really love Tyrian as a character. He's a very unique character. I love his voice actor. Definitely one of the best voice actors, I think, of all of RWBY. Just love him so much. But I'm just like, holy crap, just seeing that moment of how he's just talking to Emerald and Mercury like that. I want more of him. Hopefully he gets more spotlight for this season, because he's just a great character, and I think he needs to be utilized a lot more, because there's just so much potential with his dialogue and just how he interacts with other characters. Now, I guess let's talk about Qrow. So Qrow, he has always been kind of like a drunk. It's been established for a very long time. He's been a funny drunk since, like, the beginning of the story. But he's at this point now to where he's no longer funny. He's just straight up becoming a hindrance. He's a very depressed man that has no happiness. He's bitter, and he doesn't really have any light in his life at all. And in this case, RWBY steps in as like, you need to stop being like this, you know, we're gonna do what we want to do, we're gonna leave you behind if we have to, we're tired of just having you drag us down and being all emotional or sad, depressed, feeling sorry for yourself, we're not doing it any longer. I find it was a really good scene from RWBY saying that to Qrow, but just Qrow has gotten a drinking problem, and he does have one, and I feel like, you know, it's either gonna lead to him making a mistake and dying, or he is probably going to try to quit it to change himself for the better, which would change his outlook on the world. Which, by the way, you would think after what happened a few episodes back with, you know, the apathy and all that in the, you know, the cellars, you'd think he would have tried to stop drinking as much as he has done recently, but obviously that didn't change anything, which I think is just a habit that you really can't get over like that. It's just embedded into his personality. He thinks he needs it to be able to function as a person in the world. I think for the most part, I pretty much have covered everything. It's a really good episode, honestly. I think that, like I said at the beginning of this video, Rooster Teeth has probably one of their best volume releases in a very long time. And hopefully they keep up the quality, because these episodes have been really good, especially the voice acting, the fighting scenes, everything about it has been spot on, and I want more. So I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.